We're going to be traveling from Chicago all the way down to Maryland. This is going to take us roughly 3 days because we've got 2 kids and can't really do it in one shot. So we're going to be staying in Indianapolis and Columbus. We've got some exciting things to see, but first off, we're going to do what a lot of people have referred to as one of the most boring drives you could do. We're going from Chicago to Indianapolis, but don't worry, we're going to find some great stuff, and even if we don't, we have a really good plan once we get there. So if you're wondering about the weather here, it's about 32 degrees, potentially going to get below freezing tonight, but it's very unlikely, especially since we're going to Indianapolis. It's going to be warmer there, so we don't really have to worry too much about the weather. You can see a little bit of snow on the ground. Right before this, we had like almost a foot of snow, right? It was like up to my knees, but it's all melted by now. We had some really hot days, and most of the snow's melted. So right now we're just sort of able to drive without worrying about ice or anything like that. We're doing this drive beginning of February, end of January, so typically you would have to worry about ice, but it's actually a pretty good time to do it given there's no snow or anything like that, and conditions are perfect. But just in case, we do have a Jeep Cherokee, so hopefully that's going to hold out. One of the ways you know you're close to Indiana when you're going from Illinois into Indiana is you start seeing signs for things like fireworks and casinos and a bunch of stuff that's been built on the border, specifically because people from Illinois are probably going to go there, buy it, and bring it back into Illinois. It's illegal, but pretty much everyone does it. I grew up in Illinois, and that's like, for the 4th of July, running out for fireworks is a pretty routine thing to do, and there's a sign right there. Now, before we leave Indianapolis, we're headed to the Indianapolis Childrens Muesum. It's supposed to be the biggest and probably one of the best museums in the country or even the world. So we had to go there because we've got 2 kids and hopefully at least one of them is going to love it. So yeah, we're headed to the Indianapolis Childrens Museum. We're probably going to go by the downtown and then we're headed off to Columbus. Oh, Long John Silver's is right over there. Such a colorful restaurant. Driving into the city still, and a few observations. There are so many churches all over the place, all different religions. It's not just like Roman Catholic or like Presbyterian. It's not just like one church, but it's just there are churches everywhere you look. I'm not used to seeing so many churches everywhere. You see them here and there, but this is like boom, 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 like back to back to back, like church after church after church.
I don't wanna sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay.
Maybe for walking.
I don't wanna go.
Sort. Look. Look up. So we're at the Children's Museum. So if you've got kids, it's a really good museum. It's got like an exhibit on Greece. They've got a bunch of stuff for kids to play with. They've got playgrounds, carousels even. You've got few different exhibits. A lot of it seems to be seasonal, but yeah, for kids, this is a really great time, especially if they're into dinosaurs, and what kid isn't into dinosaurs? Huge dinosaur exhibit. They even had this cool thing where you can, they color on a piece of paper, it has a QR code on it, put it under a scanner, the scanner scans the QR code and then projects that image onto the wall of the dinosaur they drew, sort of walking around throughout the environment. It's a really cool museum, and if you've got kids, it's 100% worth it. This is probably going to be our whole day in Indianapolis, and then we're just going to head right to Columbus. If you don't have kids, though, there's literally no reason for you to come here, so don't. Like, it's just for kids.
And now on to downtown Indianapolis.
Now we're in downtown Indianapolis. So yeah, going in, it feels a bit like Detroit. Once you get downtown this block specifically, it feels more like downtown Chicago. Maybe not downtown Chicago, but it feels more like Chicago. So yeah, you can see beautiful building right back here. That's their opera house. And we're gonna go see their main war monument, which was built over 100 years ago. So this would have been something that my great-grandfather probably would have seen, yeah, at least once or twice. He was from here, from Indiana.
This circle is called Monument Circle. In the center of the circle, you have the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Opened in 1902, this is a monument to all the people that were lost and served in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Mexican War, and the Civil War. This monument stands at 284 feet tall, or 86 meters. It hails back to a time when people would spend a lot more time on stonework and masonry. It truly is a beautiful sight to see.
I don't wanna be the lover in your arms. I don't wanna be the one to keep you from home.
But as you can see right behind me, we're leaving now, the monument. A little brisk, so not hanging around too long. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty massive. It's surprising they built. It's not surprising, but it's crazy that they built something out in Indiana this big back then, because that's what, it's almost 150, maybe going on like 200 years old. It's insane. It looks cool too. And then behind me, you have the Indiana Capitol building. So this is a cool building too. I'm guessing this was built around the Civil War, but yeah, it's beautiful. You can almost tell it's from a different age just because of the statues and sort of how well everything's been carved and how intricate all the details are. You really don't see buildings like that anymore. Again, this really does remind me of Detroit. They've got buildings like this too. It's from a foregone era. And with that, we're leaving Indianapolis. So first impression, I see some charm now. Like, you go downtown, it's sort of like an old school feel to it, right? Like, it has that feel of Detroit, or maybe one of these, like, I guess a Rust Belt city, go figure. It feels like one of those cities, right? Like, its heyday was probably, it feels like in the 1800s, there's like a big thing going on. Everything was built. You can see that a lot of the buildings that survived from that time, they're just like, they're so intricate. There's so much detail. You can tell that like the statues were hand carved, and you know, it feels like people put a lot of thought into it. Whether or not that's just me looking at something that's survived so long and thinking that, or whether that's the truth, who knows. But yeah, it's really cool. It's cool to see those monuments. I don't think I've ever seen a monument to the Civil War, and this is to like the people who fell in the Civil War. So that was something different. But yeah, it was cool to see. And their Capitol building is very grandiose. It's huge. It looks amazing. But yeah, it grows on you a little bit, right? Like, you go downtown and it feels more vibrant. It feels more like a city. Now, it's not a big city. It definitely has that small city feel to it, but still, it feels cool. It doesn't feel run down, and you know, there aren't any derelict or vacant buildings. Everything's bustling, and there's people about, despite the fact that there's a stiff breeze and it's maybe 30 something out. But yeah, it's a cool city. It's a cool city. A little grayish, but it's a cool city. Now we're headed to Columbus, Ohio. On the way, we're going to be stopping in Dayton to see one of my cousins, but we're not going to record that. But yeah, all the way to Columbus, probably going to spend the night there, then headed off to Maryland. Going to be going through West Virginia, some interesting parts, see a little bit of Appalachia, so I'm excited for that. It's my first experience actually going into some sort of like Appalachian area. made it to Columbus, Ohio. Originally, we were going to go into Columbus, Ohio, but yeah, we're running a little bit late, so we had to skip that and just get on the road. Hopefully, though, that means that we're going to have more time to see some cool stuff on the way. So, yeah, let's get going. We're driving through Ohio, and after that, I think we're headed into West Virginia.
I don't wanna be the lover in your arms. I don't wanna be the one to keep you from home. I don't wanna be the crooked person in your heart. I don't wanna stop, and I don't wanna stop. Part-time love.
I think West Virginia could be interesting, some Appalachia, some stuff like that, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Right now, it's just sort of rolling hills. There's not really that much going on. There's a lot of semi-trucks, rolling hills, a lot of trees, farmland pretty much everywhere you look. It's not as flat as Indiana was. It's definitely not as flat, but there's still really not that much to see. There's no major, like, things that you'd really be blown away by, in my opinion. It's just a lot of trees, a lot of fields, and a lot of driving. One thing I will say that's nice about the US is when you're driving, pretty much every 5-10 minutes there's a gas station, there's somewhere to stop. Even though we're going sort of across half the country, you don't really go more than 20 miles without finding somewhere or something that you could stop at if you needed a break, you needed some food, you needed some gas. So it's not like you're driving across Australia or something like that where you're going to have these long stretches where there's just nothing and no humanity. There's a lot of humanity out here, for better or worse. Right now we're driving through West Virginia, so it actually does have a bit of a mining town feel to it, which is interesting. Yes, the plan is West Virginia, we're going to go through there into Pennsylvania for a little bit, then we're going to cut down through West Virginia again until we get to Maryland. But yeah, West Virginia has an interesting feel. It's very hilly, very mountainous, and you can tell the town, the layouts. It feels more like a sort of small community mining town type of area, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting that, reading into it too much. Maybe it's just I know sort of what West Virginia is all about, and that's what I'm doing, but it does have a different feel to it than, rural Ohio had, for instance. And most of the other places we drove through didn't quite have this feel. Maybe it's just it's more mountainous here, but you can definitely tell it's not the flat Midwest anymore.
It's on my skin. I'm a coward, baby, don't let me in. Part-time lover, how we suffer now.
We just stopped at Morgantown. Now we're back on the road, headed to Maryland. Yeah, Morgantown was actually really nice. A lot of new restaurants, a lot of new buildings. We went to the TJ Maxx, we went to the Home Goods. We stopped at Panda Express, and then we stopped also at this place, Blaze Pizza. It was pretty good. You get to make your own pizza. But yeah, overall, Morgantown seems like a cool little place and a good pit stop if you're looking for that.
As night set on the third day, we finally reached our destination. Thank you so much for joining me on this trip, and hopefully you'll join me on more in the future.